Ubolu Ila Road, or call us on 0803 074 6655 or 0701 313 3557. Royal Splendor Paints, for that royalty you desire.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Today. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
It's the first work day after the holidays. I hope you're back in the mood.
For some, for many.
Yes, for many, indeed. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I hope your holiday was restful.
Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome. Today is June 19. It's, no, it's not Monday. It's a Wednesday morning. Just be reminded. Welcome to the show.
Okay, well, today we're going to have quite a number of issues that will come up here this morning. One of them...
This is the National Arts Theatre again. Quite a sight, wouldn't you say? Always a beautiful one to behold. And I remember an interview, a conversation we had with Toyota Hallelujah Alibaba. Of course, we all know him as Alibaba, who says that, look, the creative industry gathers something between 20 and 25 billion naira every weekend in Lagos alone. And this, the National Arts Theatre, is a cradle of that one. Thankfully, from what I gather, that conversation he had and his revelation is already opening some eyes, the eyes of some people among the authorities to what needs to be done to galvanize that particular economy. It is a huge one, and I'm hoping we'll all be able to maximize it as much as possible. If Lagos alone is getting something in the region of 20 to 25, spending 20 to 25 billion naira every weekend alone, just imagine if we could put all of that together across very many states in Nigeria. Of course, I know we can't have that amount from every state in the country, and not even the Federal Capital Territory. But, I mean, just imagine we could galvanize that sector in every state in Nigeria. I want to believe that to a significant and recognizable extent, the number of people unemployed will have reduced significantly, because quite a number of young people are very much interested in the creative industry, what you call entertainment, music, movies, theater, comedy, you name it. It's all there, guys. What do you think?
Well, quite a sight to behold as always, Ayo. I mean, you've said all that there is to say with regards to the potential. Why do we always dwell on potential, though? What is possible with the National Theatre? I don't like to use that word anymore. I mean, potential. You've been using it since I was old.
We don't eat potential.
We've been using it since I was, you know, how many days old? Look, that we need to move to the reality. What is possible? Can we move from potential to kinetic? Yeah, kinetic energy. That's what it needs to be. To action. To see what really needs to be done. And for those who actually live in Lagos and have never been to the National Theatre, look, every day we're showing you places that you can go. If you say that, oh, Jebba Bridge, which you showed you yesterday, you're not sure how to get there. If you ever visit Lagos, you know, it's very easy to get to the National Theatre, especially now that the rail line has b's been done. What's that rail line called now? Aya, if you can help me. The rail line has been done. There are roads leading all the way to Igomu. I mean, there is no excuse. You have no excuse. There are even waterways very close to Igomu that you can, go through and then maybe complete the rest by bus. Look, these sights and sounds are there for us all. It's not for strangers. It's not for outsiders. Now come and tell us what is in our country. Things that we can visit. As Ayo has always highlighted, it's a piece of history. There have been many decades of, happenings. I mean, National Theatre is synonymous with Festac, 77. That's how many years ago? It was years before I was born. Well, let's not go into revealing how old I am. But hey, that is right there. And I think it's always worth a visit. Schools can always organize an excursion. How much the children know about the National Theatre, how it came to be, what famous plays has it hosted. These are things that we can always come up with. But Ayo, it's always a beauty and a delight to see the National, especially now that it's been given a facelift. So I think that should certainly move the conversation from what is possible to what is being done.
Unfortunately, we cannot run away from potential because I saw a report by PwC that projected that the country could earn, I think they said it was $12.9 billion by 2027 for the entertainment industry. Then I saw another report, a more recent one, but I think they call themselves Neck Life or something. And then they said it was actually going to be in the region of $14.82 billion by 2025. It means, look, even those projections, it's really catching up and improving. So it means quite a lot can happen. And the reason why they talk about potentials is a wake-up call for us so that we can go in, put facilities and things in place to harness and take advantage of what is there so that it doesn't end up as potentials. Okay, so that said, let's go ahead and take you through what and how some of the dailies are reflecting what is going on today. Ayo.
A good number of the papers we have for you this morning are looking at the Rivers story. The Nigerian Tribune leads with Rivers, 2 killed as chaos erupts over forceful takeover of councils. Ijaw youths protest continued stay in office of local government chairman destroy Wike statue. Fubara meets security chiefs. Governor directs administrative heads to take charge of LGs. Police take over council secretariats. G60 lawmakers ask governor to file treason suits against 23 ex-council bosses. The details you'll find on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune today. The New Telegraph is looking at the same story. Rivers LG crisis. Fubara rules out tenure extension for council bosses, meets security agencies, and the riders warns against arrest of supporters. Gunshots as citizens take over council's headquarters. That story is on page 2. The Daily Times newspaper, Rivers crisis, shootings as Fubara directs HLGA to take over 23 councils. Security operatives killed, Ijaw youths occupied PHLG complex. That story is on page 2 of the Daily Times newspaper this morning. The Guardian newspaper is looking at the same story. Rivers in turmoil as Fubara pro-Wike factions battle for LGAs. The lead story is on page 6 of the paper this morning. The Nigerian News Direct. Rivers LG crisis deepens. Bloody as 2 feared dead. Fubara summer security meeting vows to subdue intimidation. Reps demand treason trial for ex-LG chairman. Accuse them of forceful attempts to retain seats. IPAC backs Fubara comments HLGA takeover. Focus on FCT duties. Avoid Rivers politics. Edwin Clark to Wike. The Daily Independent. Rivers Council's tenure crisis. Policeman vigilante die as youths protest return of ex-LG chairman. Hold down Wike statue at Obiakpo Council headquarters. Fubara asks heads of administration to take charge of LGs. vows to protect Rivers people, condemns plan to arrest supporters, plots to retain seats after end of tenure treasonable. That's according to Rex. The details of that story you'll find on page 29 of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. The Blueprint newspaper has the same story on its front page. At the bottom of the page, policeman vigilante feared killed over Rivers LG tenure crisis. Fubara Summers emergency meeting, CP assures safety. On the lead story of the Blueprint newspaper, Kano Emirate tussle. Don't amplify drums of war. APC cautions Kwakwaso. Says LG hasn't planned to take over power through insurgency emergency. That's the lead story of the Blueprint newspaper this morning. If you look at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, Nigerians not alone in poverty. Atiku LP tackles Tinubu. Tinubu warns against rail tracks vandalism, stealing of electric cables. You're elected to reduce poverty, not amplify it, according to the Labour Party. Stop making excuses for inflicting multidimensional poverty on Nigerians, as according to Atiku. That story is on page 5. But the Rivers story is also right there. Mayhem in Rivers as Wike Fubara feud spills to LG HQs. Details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. The Daily Trust newspaper, how PSC NPF dispute stalls recruitment of 10,000 police. Only 20,000 instead of 60,000 picked in 6 years. Insecurity lingers due to lack of coordination. National Assembly must wade in. Details of that story are on the inside pages of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The Nigerian Observer, fresh concerns as brain drain ravages Nigeria's healthcare. That story is right there on the front page of the Nigerian Observer this morning. And those are some of the papers we have for you today.
I was hearing something as somebody, where are we? What's happening? Okay, so one of the things that stick out is the front page of the Guardian newspaper today. And that story right there, just beneath that lead story on the front page of the Guardian, where NAFDAC was cautioning also, saying, look, cooked food shouldn't stay in your refrigerator for more than 3 days. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that will fall on deaf ears. Mm-hmm. You know, but she went on and reeled out some statistics saying about $110 billion is lost in Africa on a regular basis on medical expenses as a result of unsafe food. And it was on the occasion of the World Food Safety Day that she was highlighting all of these things. And it's really shocking because not many people pay attention to those kind of scenarios because they think if we don't have supply, if we're trying to preserve stuff, what do we do? But those are the kind of information that we cannot afford to gloss over because they are hugely important. Families may think, look, it's cost-saving measures, but I think we have to find a way to amplify a lot of those things. Preventive approach being adopted rather than reactionary approach, as some people have told us, our medical health officials seem to have changed their approach to certain things. So a word is indeed enough.
Well, for the wise. For the wise is what they say. Well, you know, yesterday my husband brought that story to my attention.
It's an important story.
I'm not certain why he did, but he brought it to my attention.
Well, maybe somebody watching knows why.
And I said, oh, okay. But here, one of the things I'm very grateful for is the fact that, you know, when we're in secondary school, we did a course. I'm sure it's still a subject that's offered, food and nutrition. And I think it is something that should be made compulsory, given the fact that, you know, food is your first line of defense. Food is medicine. And I think that, you know, everyone needs, apart from knowing just what constitutes a balanced diet and all the foods that constitute that, People should know how to cook their meal, preserve their meal, know how to cook your meal to preserve the nutrients. And just as the NAFDAC DG has highlighted, know how to also preserve it for safety. Over the years, I have since learned that, if you know that you're doing bulk cooking, one of the things you should do is to, cook in bulk, pack it in little bits, freeze the ones that you're not going to be eating immediately, and then the ones you're going to be eating immediately, as NAFDAC boss has highlighted, 3 days at the maximum, you should have consumed it. And if you brought it out to thaw, don't take it back into the freezer. Even though, yes, the light situation really makes things very bad for a lot of, homemakers, in the sense that you want to be able to preserve things in your refrigerator, but when you're out of light for 24 hours, you now have to quickly remember, oh, this thing needs to be kept cool somewhere. You put it in your freezer. You might forget to bring it out back, but ideally, when something has thawed, you should not put it back in the freezer and bring it out again. You are destroying the food and you're making yourself susceptible to food poisoning. So I think that there needs to be greater awareness and a stronger need to incorporate these things into our educational curriculum. Things like, personal finance, things like food and nutrition should be made compulsory. These are life skills that you will need. They're things that you will need over the course of your life. Now there's a whole industry teaching people, just how to eat right, what to eat and what not to eat at a particular age. That whole industry is booming as a result. People can start taking that interest from as early as secondary school, from as early as JS3. So let us hope that, this, as you've said, the message is not falling on deaf ears, that it will pique the interest of our homemakers to do better and do more by their families and, in extension, to society. Ayo.
Well, I'll be adding to that that you guys just talked about by looking at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Right above the nameplate, it talks about cholera. They're saying that some states, some Lagos schools may not resume from the break, that we've had over time, over the past weekend until yesterday. And that is actually very, very instructive. And it goes back to what you said, Maokwe, that I hope every one of us will get the memo and recognize that the slightest of infections are as a result of some contamination or the other. Cholera is a product of contaminated food, contaminated by the cholera bacterium. But whichever kind of, infection can be avoided by taking the necessary or requisite proactive actions, such as what we have talked about. So now we know about cholera. And there are a number of others. When we spoke with the DG of the NCDC on Saturday, he had a number of things to say about the fact that we know that these cycles are going to come. Cholera will come at a particular time of the year. And Mark, you've talked about this as well. Lassa fever will come at certain times of the year. And, we know a number of them like that. Measles and all of these, we know that these things are going to happen. In fact, there is a calendar for it. We know that these things are going to happen, and in which states they're going to happen, and which states are the red spot. We know these things. Kindly take proactive action. We know that the local government, systems are the ones that are closest to the people to ensure that these things are done the way they should be done. So please, can we get them working? Well, we'll take a short break now. When we return, it's time to get into the issues for the day. Please stay with us.
Taste.
The rains are here again. Seasonal climate forecasts have revealed the possibility of flooding in several communities of Nigeria. Clear away solid wastes that block drainages and waterways to mitigate the risk of flooding in your area. Do not build on waterway. Do not walk through flood water. Evacuate from flood-prone areas to safe higher grounds and report any flood incident to the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. Listen to weather forecast and comply to safety instructions. For further information, visit www.nema.gov.ng. Disaster management is everybody's business. This message is brought to you by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. NEMA, for the sake of the distressed.
The misgivings in Rivers State politics appear to have shifted to the third year of government administration. Very early in the day, some people began to mobilize towards local government secretariats in the state. Their intention is to, in their words, prevent council chairmen whose tenure expired at 12 midnight on Monday, June 17, 2024, from accessing the premises. At Rumo Dumaya, the headquarters of Obiakpor local government area, is this site of singing, dancing, and even cooking. And for them, securing the secretariat is top priority, even if it entails staying a bit longer. The Joy Youth Council has joined in the occupation here, insisting that the tenure of the local government chairman is over.
We are here to say, local government chairman, thank you. You have governed your local government council for 3 years. Please, peacefully take a walk and leave.
Events took a different turn at Port local government area as shots were fired when Olwell Ihuda attempted to enter the council and was resisted. In his response to today's development, Mr. Nosike says there is no cause for alarm as far as the local government council is concerned.
We have heard that in Omuma, they have attacked Nigerian police force. We are asking the Inspector General of Police to please, he needs to redeploy DIGs because it is clear that our city is becoming overwhelmed with the current crisis.
Meanwhile, controversy appears to be brewing over the decision of 21 out of the 23 local government council chairmen to remain in office for the next 6 months. They say they have the backing of the law, among other considerations.
Nobody wants to stay beyond his tenure. But we run a constitutional democracy where everything is by the law, the grand norm. And we must ask ourselves, what did the grand norm say about local government, the tenure of government? Is that must be governed by elected council chairman. And for whatever reason, if the governor of the state refuses to conduct local government election, and graciously the House of Assembly has extended our tenure, what fault is it of ours? It's never our fault. People rather should be asking the governor, why did you not conduct local government election when these persons at the tenure were running over?
2 chairmen have indicated interest to hand over to the administrative heads of their councils.
I've already vacated office, preparation for today. All I'm waiting is for His Excellency to give directive and we do the needful.
As all of this unfolds, the governor seems not to be leaving anything to chance, as he has quickly convened an emergency security meeting which held behind closed doors. But here is a highlight of the discussion.
We are also aware that our enemy is also planning a lot of things, but we will not fall into that plot where we will allow him or them to destroy the peace that we're enjoying in the state. I am also aware that there is also a grand plan to come and arrest some of our supporters. This time around, you have to pass through me to arrest them, because I don't think there is anything that any of those people following us have done rather than stand on the side of truth. If it will cost us our life to stand on the part of truth, we will do that.
It's a day before resumption of work after the break to celebrate Eid Kabir. Residents and watchers of Rivers political events can only continue to hope for a quick resolution to all the crisis.
All right, welcome back to Sunrise City. Well, at the moment, we understand that Phyllis coming through is saying that the governor of Rivers State is about to swear in what they say are newly screened chairman and members of the caretaker committee in 23 local government areas of Rivers State. There are footage coming through saying that some of them have been screened. They were in Government House this morning, and this is coming in consideration of all that is playing out this morning in Rivers State, as you have seen in that report, which we did highlight. Some unfortunate incidents, some lives have been lost as a result of the fracas going on yesterday up until this morning. So we're just keeping tabs on developments in the state, and we'll bring them to you as we get them. So at the moment, we've got two gentlemen who will be joining us to just give us their quick take this morning on the developments and implications of what is going on. Shugbaye Eli is a lawyer. He was elected chairman of Degama Local Government Council in Rivers State in 2015. We're also going to have joining us this morning Mr. Wari, who is also a legal practitioner. They will both be joining us from Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. Mr. Eli, let me start with you. Very, very concerning, the developments playing out in Rivers State at the moment. But we've heard some of the narratives coming through from the governor. We've also seen youths hitting the streets. But notwithstanding the developments coming through from Rivers State Government House this morning, saying that the governor is swearing in some caretaker committee chairman, how does that play out in considering what the police said yesterday, that they have taken over the local government secretariat to forestall breakdown of law and order? Because some will think with that action from the police, everyone is supposed to just stay clear until all calms down. But with that swearing in, it looks as if that may not happen.
Chamberlain, if you can hear me, hold back.
The police are taking over and then the swearing happening. Are they supposed to resume after the swearing or what?
Well, the police will take over only to restore sanity and law and order. Once the caretaker committee is screened and they're inaugurated by the governor, they move into the council. SASA is done. I'm not sure the police will prevent them, except there's another cause.
A good thing you're a lawyer, but the police CP also told us 2 days ago that the court of appeal has said, everybody stay action until we decide on the matter today. So isn't this destroying what they are referred to as the rest in this matter?
Please, Chamberlain, let's be very focused on the issues as the media. You have a role to play as other than enjoy the Constitution. The CP, with respect to him, misinterpreted what the appeal court meant by status quo, present status quo, in that matter that came before them and adjourned to tomorrow, Thursday, 20th. You need to understand that the party that appealed on that interlocutory appeal to the appeal court was Amat Sameule and others against Okojumbo, the speaker. Now, if the court says maintain status quo, it means maintain status quo where you are on the issues that brought to the court. I know the court said if they determine the issues on the appeal, the relief sought by the appellants, it could abort, it could be a preemptive strike, it could prematurely terminate the matter before the High Court. The court that the High Court had not given a final judgment on this. It was first an interim injunction that was granted by a motionless party brought by Okojumbo and others. And then it was now upgraded at the next adjournment to interlocutory injunction, which was also taken that day. And before the court adjourned to 20th, with the caveat to the parties to maintain the presence.
I'm sorry, I lost you. I can't hear. I can't make out what you're saying. What you're saying. Okay, so we lost him there. But yes, indeed, we'll put across all questions from all angles. Everyone may have said a thing or two, and so they're all relevant. Okay, pardon me, we lost you there. You were talking about the court saying maintain status quo, which applies to all parties. Was that your point?
When the court says maintain status quo, the court is not saying that you should not do what you are doing ordinarily in business of government. On the issues I brought to the courts, and the court was specific. If you look at the reliefs sought by the appellants, the court granted reliefs 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 or so. And then others 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 were not granted. You may wish you had averted attention to those reliefs. So those ones that are not granted are the ones you maintain status quo on. Right? Others are good to go. They didn't say because status quo was maintained, so governance must stop. That's not the issue. In any event, the issue of local government councils was not before the appeal courts. That's not what Ahmed Samuel brought to the courts. So how that affects the appointment of cabinet committees is a far-fetched argument, with respect.
Okay, now there are questions about the extension of the tenure of the local government chairman, because according to them, there is a law made by the House of Assembly that supports the extension of the tenure of local government chairman. Has there been any challenge to that particular law?
Thanks for that wonderful question. First thing first, the attempt to elongate the tenure of the immediate past council chairman was made by Ameula and others. That was subject of a judicial decision in the case brought by one of those outgone chairmen, Kukigam of Opobonkoro and then Claude Wilcox of Bonny, for judicial interpretation of their tenure before my Lord the Honorable Justice Dagetima Gabriel Kyo of the High Court of Rivers State. My Lord, in his wisdom, nullified that 10 allegation where Rivers State Local Government Law number 2 of 2024 and expunged it from the laws of Rivers State of Nigeria. As far as the law is concerned, that's where we are. So that elongation did not, as a speaker, does not apply and cannot apply, because until appeal court sits on it and says anything otherwise, that is the law. So no assembly could have enacted a law and then the law is cast in granite and can be tampered with by the judiciary. Under the Constitution, the judiciary is empowered to interpret laws. And the law, my Lord in his wisdom, struck down that law and expunged it on laws of the rest of Nigeria. So nobody can stand on that law to claim that the tenure was elongated.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Are you saying that the recent law, because this seems to be something that was done recently, has now been expunged? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, my Lord, the Honorable Justice Daketima Gabriel Kyo of the High Court of Rivers State, ruling in the case brought by the former chairman of Opobonkoro, that's Enyada Kukigam, and again Claude Wilcox of Bonny, to interpret their own tenure. The matter was brought via an originating summons. And my Lord, in interpreting their tenure, struck down that amendment of the Rivers State Local Government Law by Amegula and others. And they not only strike it down, he said it was inconsistent with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and expunged it from the laws of Rivers State of Nigeria. That is where we are at the moment. So that law, that extension doesn't exist.
That is interesting, because that's what the other local government chairmen seem to be standing on. That's what they are relying upon to continue to insist on the tenure elongation. Are they aware that that has been expunged, or is this something that happened in secret?
But the High Court sits in the open. And this matter was reported extensively last week. I'm sure you know your medium is one of those very advanced media in Nigeria. I'm not saying that to patronize you. We have a correspondent in Port Harcourt. I think Charles, I don't know, I can't remember his name now. Judicial correspondents were there. So that was even before the tenure ended on the 17th. He struck it down. He struck down that allegation and cited the case of Attorney General, among the authorities cited Attorney General of the Federation against Attorney General Labia and 35 others in the Supreme Court decision in 2001, prohibiting tenure elongation for local government chairmen at that time. So in interpreting that law, he said it was inconsistent with the Constitution, and he struck it down. I'm not aware of any appeal filed by them to challenge it at the moment. So nobody can rely on what Amewule filed an appeal challenging Okojumbo over House of Assembly on that issue. We're not debating the issue of their defection even. So when the matter comes to the court deals with the issues before it. So I'm aware that Justice Kyo did not forage into determining whether or not they have a locus to amend the law, given their defection. He didn't go there because it was not before him. It was the question interpreting the law they purportedly amended to a tenure for essentially the tenure of local government chairmen who are now governed by law. That's what happened.
Okay, well, as things stand today, with the position of the police and then the threatening going on now, and some of those who seem to be fomenting trouble, what is the correct position of things? How should things play out that will subscribe to the rule of law?
Well, Chamberlain, the position of law is simple and it's not subject to personal interpretation. As I said, the Commissioner of Police, if what you had him say is saying to go by, a lot of people got this maintenance status quo thing very wrong. Maybe they should just let the gunpowder and wait for the appeal court to see tomorrow. Then they can raise that issue again and see what the appeal court will say. But I know the way the law works is you look at the relief sought by the party, what reliefs were granted by the appeal court, what reliefs are not granted. For instance, it sought for another of the appeal court that was stopped completely. Completely. The order of the High Court rested upon which Okojumbo and others were working as Speaker and members of the Assembly. They also sought for another of the courts to deem, as if they aborted nullifying all the actions, including the screening of Attorney General and other commissioners. The court did not go there because going there will amount to determining the issues before the High Court. Prematurely, the court made that pronouncement very clear and declined all those reliefs 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. So nothing stops. Status quo does not mean that the local government system cannot run because, and like I said, the matter before the appeal court is not about local governments.
Okay.
It's about assembly. So the two don't go together.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Worry on this matter. He's also a legal practitioner in Rivers State. Good morning and thank you for joining us on the program here today. So from what your colleague has said there about the position of the law, it does appear as though those members who are saying that their tenure was elongated are standing on nothing, because he says that's been struck out, and so they cannot cite that as any reason whatsoever to want to stay back in the office, which some say is the root of this challenge. Can you hear me? You may need to unmute. Okay, we can't seem to get him on the line. So as things stand now, so that if I could come back to you, Mr. Eli. So with the way the issues are playing out in Rivers State, from your perspective, the only thing the police can do now is, after this local government caretaker committee chairman are sworn in, they cannot and should not prevent them from getting back to office. Would that be in line with your point?
Yeah, Chamberlain, the police can only act on orders of courts. At the moment, there's no order of court restraining the councils from being inaugurated by the governor as caretaker committees. So the police will have no order to obey in terms of restraining them from gaining access to the councils. I'm very sure probably the reason why the police went there, the reason the police went to the council to forestall the breakdown of law and order, given the attempt by the outgoing chairman to resist their departure. Chamberlain, it's an experience I went through in 2015. Yes, Wike came to office as governor, and where another of the Federal High Court vacated my colleagues from the councils. The police simply came there to enforce peace and orderliness. I didn't wait for They didn't wait for the appeal process to go through. They didn't wait for also, we have been back and forth to the Supreme Court twice and back at appeal court. They have continued the business of local government. It didn't stop them from going on, even conducting 2 local government elections behind us in 2018 and 2021. Why this is completely strange is confounding. And I think that is not necessary. The police will enforce orders of courts. Other than that, their primary duty is to maintain law and order. I think that's what they're doing by occupying the council so that hoodlums and miscreants will not take advantage of the situation and cause a disruption of public peace.
In terms of maintaining law and order, what would you say to those who think that some of the words used by the governor appears to be fueling or emboldening some of those who are all over the streets there, fomenting one trouble or the other, using the words like the enemy, if you have to arrest anybody, you have to come through me. They may misunderstand those narratives as though he's, backing them, giving them the oomph to go in there and stand on whatever they want to do.
I beg to disagree with you, Chamberlain. If you have followed the narrative in River States, those who probably blame the governor for calling somebody my enemy, also can recall that he called somebody and the difference between him and the former governor, father and son. If you watch, the proclamations about conflict and then the people trying to seek enforcement of their rights arose from the comments made by former local government chairman like Samuel Wanosike, my friend. A lot of them, Thomas Barreri, kind of local government, Wanosike is from Ikwere, Chidi Lloyd is from Emohua, and one of that one, they call of them. A few of them were gentlemanly, said, look, it's all the path of peace. Your turn is over, your turn is over. Somebody was there before you, somebody will come after you. All of these attempts to stand on nothing to foment crisis. Is it why I see citizens across the state troop out in their numbers? Is it because some of them threaten they will never leave? You saw one video where one is shouting, if they burn you well, if they burn you well, if they burn you well, come on to the council, take it about June 17. These are the rhetorics that make people react.
But Mr. Eli, with those words you said, are they comparable to what the governor has said? And besides, are we comparing those other offices to the office of the governor?
Well, Chibala, I should also probably ask you, when Nyesom at the reception at his departure, warned those who undermine the governor who thinks he's a small boy to be careful. What do you think he was saying?
No. I'm asking you about what is happening now. The current rhetoric from the governor who the states look up to. That's the issue.
I'm not a spokesman. And
I'm not saying you are. I know you're not. I didn't introduce you as such. I know you're a lawyer. And that's what I'm asking you, your perspective. As a learned gentleman, what you think of it?
Well, Chamberlain, my answer will be this. Maybe it may not fit the bill of what you want to hear.
No. I don't want to hear anything. I just want to hear your opinion, whatever it is.
No, I cannot prejudge him. I'm just trying to put myself in the shoe of a neutral man. Assuming without considering that I was in his shoes, probably I could say something worse. Because if you're in River State, I don't know, okay, correspondent Charles of Rome, get your ears on the street in River State and imagine what's going on here. I'm not a member of his party. But I know that this man has been the most undermined governor of in recent years in Nigerian history. Things have happened. I see a man who was quiet suddenly.
So for you, the end justifies the means?
No, not really. I'm not saying so. I can't say so as a lawyer. I can't say so. But I'm saying that
you say worse.
The national consequence of his actions.
You say you probably say worse.
So, I said if I was his shoes, probably I would do worse. I don't want to act like.
So what's the difference between the end justifying the means?
The difference is that if you're here in this state, everything has been done since that impeachment plot failed.
Okay.
I've been done to undermine authority and person of the governor. I know.
All right, let me bring in your colleague. Pardon me. Let's bring him in. He's not said anything all the while. Mr. Worry, let's hope we can get across to you. So you heard your colleague speak about those members of local government who he says, look, they're the ones standing on nothing and trying to foment trouble in the state, citing on non-existent law. What do you think of that? Can you unmute this time?
My brother, are you hearing me?
Go ahead.
My brother,
all right, your connection is not clear. So let's go to my colleague Ayo.
But let me come back to you, Mr. Ili. There's a question Chamberlain was trying to ask you the other time, particularly from the governor, but feelers coming from the street. What are you hearing? How are the people reacting to the issues from what you know about that's happening in Rivers State right now, Mr. Eli? What is happening? How are the people receiving it? Is there any unrest on the streets from what you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Eli.
Ayo, Rivers people are not indifferent to their environment. Rivers people are politically very alive and active. And they side on the side of the truth and justice. These fellows who are giving power now were local government chairmen were elected by the people for a definite term of 3 years that began in June 2021 and ended in June 2024. The attempt to elongate their tenure arose out of a crisis or a presumption that the governor refused to conduct local government elections within time as allowed by law. You recall that in 2015, local government chairmen were removed from office.
If you can hear me, Mr. Eli, the question that I'm asking is really about how the people are seeing the issues.
We held the first elections, and then the second one in 2021. I'm not in frame of mind to imagine that Rivers people suddenly...
Mr. Eli, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Eli? Can you hear me?
Nobody can own a territory.
Can you hear me, Mr. Eli? Can you hear me right now?
When the law says your time is up.
I'm just trying to, get your feelers, what you think, how you think the people are receiving the story, because from what we gathered, our correspondent lets us know that people are going about their businesses, their lives and businesses like nothing is really changing anything. But if you do, from all you have said and from your understanding, having been a chairman of a local government in Rivers State, the thing that is going on right now, are they issues of politics, of governance, or of law?
It's a mixture of all of them, if you ask me. Politics is the one that is trying to force chaos in terms of power tussle. Our tenure is not over. Even when they know that their colleagues, out of 23 of them, 2 went to the High Court for judicial interpretation of tenure when that law was amended to elongate the tenure. And they know that the court has struck it down. Not only striking it that was inconsistent with the Constitution, it was expunged from the laws of Rivers State. What they would have done was to go on appeal on that decision and wait for the Appeal Court to speak otherwise. I don't resort to self-help. But they decided to sit back in the councils, acting like one of them even said that Mayul is a law of Nigeria. I don't understand. So the people, when it comes to politics, that's on the side of politics. The side of the law is settled. The law is not one that speaks with equivocation. The law is that local government tenures ended midnight June 17, and the governor ordered or directed the head of local government councils to take over, pending further directives, at least it broke access today. In terms of governance, what that means is that at the moment, the governance of the local government council is in the hands of the heads of local government administration. When the House of Assembly screens the governor's nominees for the Cadre Committee positions, and then the governor swears them in, they take over and the governance continues. So for politics, law, and governance, this is status quo. This is scenario.
Well, I don't know how you will also bring that, your opinions on these, what you just said last now, to the facts around the autonomy of the local government administrations in Nigeria, particularly in Lagos State, case in point right now. So, because if the local governments were autonomous, would we still have a situation where the governor is making that kind of pronouncement?
Well, Ayo, the truth of the matter is that I am also one of those who would have advocated, and I've not advocated for local government autonomy. Unfortunately, we have a constitution that speaks otherwise. What do I mean by that? The constitution that recognizes 3 tiers of government, federal, states, and local government councils. But the constitution, again, in its wisdom, haven't recognized local government, subsumed them under the states. So the states make laws for the administration of local government councils. The states sit down in what they call the Joint State Allocation and Council Committee to allocate funds that come from federation to local government councils. Now, speaking about autonomy, you are aware that the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Aggbemi, learned senior advocate, have filed a suit against the 36 states at the Supreme Court. Arguments have been taken by the respective parties, and the Supreme Court adjourned for ruling. When that happens, to know whether we can take a step forward. But you call also that before President Buhari left office, in an attempt to give local governments autonomy and the judiciary, he passed the Executive Order 10, which was struck down by the same Supreme Court. So here we are. So that's what the Supreme Court say. For me, I think the appropriate thing to do would have been to go through constitutional amendments to truly free the councils as a tier of government on its own. Probably convert the customary courts and the local level magistrate courts to the judicial arm of the local government councils, and then allow them to operate as a complete tier of government free on its own. Until that happens, until that amendment happens, I am afraid. I don't want to prejudge what the Supreme Court to say, but given recourse to what they did with the Executive Order 10 passed by or approved by President Muhammadu Buhari, I have my fears about what to become of local government autonomy when the Supreme Court finally speaks its mind.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, when you say that, governance has been handed to the heads, the instruction of the governor, heads of the organizations, the local government administrations in each of the local governments in Rivers State right now, then the question, should arise about the constitutionality or the legality of that action as well.
It is very legal. Maybe, let me say this. The heads of local government councils are civil servants and not politicians. They're like permanent secretaries in ministries. So if a political appointee, a commissioner leaves, he hands over to the permanent secretary or the most senior director in his ministry. That's what happens. So when the governor directs the heads of local government to take over, yesterday was a public holiday, recall that? So as the chairman was leaving, there couldn't have been a vacuum. So the governor directed those HLGAs to take over in the interim until the Kenya committees, once appointments come through. That's what happens. It's not happening the first time. It's not novel.
Let me see for a second or two if Mr. Wari, if we can speak to him right now. Mr. Wari, can you hear me?
Let me speak for a second or two if Mr. Wari.
Can you hear me, Mr. Wari?
Mr. Wari, can you hear me?
All right. All right, let's get back to you, Mr. Eli. So, still talking about the legality or otherwise of it. One of the questions that one would want to ask is, why hand over to the heads of the local governments, the civil servants, as you call them, or as you say they are, if the process of selecting or electing the next set of local government administrations was there? That's the reason I'm asking about that legality, because ideally it should be a situation where they are handing over to another democratically elected set of local government chairmen. Don't you think so?
Okay, Ayo, maybe we should sound this way, so we'll probably understand that. Sounds very well. The idea of handing over local government council administration to heads of local government councils or heads of personnel management, as we are called at some point in time, is nothing new. As at the time the council tenures were ending at midnight, June 17th, you couldn't have left the councils rudderless. That's the wisdom that inspired, directed the governor to direct the heads of local governments to take over.
Yes. Mr. Ila, if you can hear me, just a second.
Yes,
if you can hear me.
Yes.
The question that I'm asking is, we knew that their tenures would end on a particular day. So ideally, the elections should have held long before that time, so that we know that there are chairmen-elect waiting to take office before the tenure of the current administrations expire. That's the question I'm asking.
Ayo, the governor knows the tenure will end. There's nothing that's written in that law that says he cannot appoint a committee. It's a local government law. Why is unable to conduct elections? Why is unable to conduct elections? I do not know. I'm not the governor. But there are circumstances around the state, political tensions and all that may not allow him to direct research to go ahead the whole election.
Which also leads to that question, Mr. Eli, if you can hear me. Which also leads to that question. My apologies. Which also leads to that question. I mean, just as you said, the governor knew that their tenures would end. There is a reason that the state independent electoral commissions exist. So if there was a challenge with that one, is it, I mean, I don't know whatever the challenges are, which is the reason you are talking about political, governance, and law challenges in the state. So governance shouldn't stop. Politics shouldn't stop. Law should always, the rule of law should always uphold itself in any situation, irrespective of what the situations are. That is the reason we have security agencies. So if there were political inhibitions, that would have made that difficult. I mean, the security operatives could have stepped in. So I don't know what you think of that one, because if the law says that local government should be there, then there is no reason for the elections to not hold.
Ayo, the Rivers State local government law provides for cater committees where elections are unable to hold as and when due. So the government is not acting outside of the law. So when they say rule of law, I should be a defender of the rule of law as a lawyer first and foremost. If something is ultra virus of the law, I'll tell you it's ultra virus. At the moment, this is not. And there's not, it's not cast in stone. Local government councils are not unconstitutional per se. All right? They may not be prescribed by the constitution per se, but they're not illegitimate. There is stopgap until you're able to hold elections. And I've said there over and again, if our states and other states, it's happening. Look across the federation. Local government councils, elections are held as and when, but again, the issue is what makes it in the council chairman, local government, the agents for local government elections, so the RISEC cannot hold elections. The agency is there, but the template for all elections is set by them. When they call elections, the elections to hold. I'm not aware of any complaint from RISEC as to why they're unable to call elections. I'm not aware of complaints of funding or whatever. I'm not aware. So I cannot speak for them. The governor is not part of RISEC. The governor appoints the chairman of RISEC and the board members. So if we were to blame conduct for elections, I'm sure we're directing the questions at the wrong person. I've worked as an electoral officer at RISEC between 2004, March, and October 2007. I resigned to run for House of Assembly in Rivers State. We conducted 2 local elections, and I produced 2 council chairmen. So RISEC is one that should answer the question as to why elections did not hold as and when due. I am always speaking from that angle that maybe the political tensions and all that may be the reason why it could not hold. The environment may not be stable enough, maybe security reports. But RISEC is the agency more appropriate to answer the question as to why elections did not hold when tenures were ending. Well, so whether or not the intervention of the governor to appoint cabinet committees is legal, yes, it is legal, because according to Rivers State law, Section 9.5 Rivers State Government Law 2018 provides for the appointment of cabinet committees as a stopgap measure. Is there? And so again, on that premise that the former governor, the immediate past governor, appointed 6 cabinet committees.
Mr. Eli, I do not know if you can hear me, but
I'm not sure the governor had the law.
Well, there are others who are wondering that, this caretaker committee was sent to the other faction, not the Amewele faction now, for screening and swearing in when the matters are still before a court of law. Would you say that the governor has decided which side is actually the legal side while that tussle is still, before their Lord Justices?
But let me take the position of an extremist, if you like, as a lawyer. If I see that a high court judge and they bring a matter concerning the people you call the other faction or whatever, I would dismiss it for lack of jurisdiction. With the wave of the hand, I would do that. Why? The Supreme Court has spoken on this matter of Section 109, sub 1G. Okay? And I don't see how we keep going back and forth on this issue. Until that issue is examined, Section 102 provides for what you see going on with Okojumbo and others. The Assembly sits validly as it stands right now. I don't know why people think that E37, 27 people decided to take a walk for political reasons. The rest of the state must be held to ransom, and governors must not go ahead. I don't think so. Section 102 of the Constitution provides for the 3 of them to sit until INEC calls elections. As a man who's constituent part of the state, my conscience is affected. I'm praying for a time when this issue be resolved and INEC will call election quickly, and then we can have those seats filled.
All right. So
I will go back and forth on it. Is beyond me.
So as you say, the matter may be up until when it is resolved. So if the matter has not been resolved, it means that you cannot take a decisive decision until it is resolved. But we have to go at this point. That's all the time we have. Shugbai Eli is a lawyer and was chairman of Degema Local Government Council of Rivers State in 2015. So we do thank you for your perspective. So we couldn't get in, Mr. Worry. So, but tomorrow we'll bring the other side to you. But for now, Business Morning on Sunrise Daily comes up now.
Well, hello, welcome. It's the start of the trading week today, right here in Lagos, Nigeria. We see the stock market is open, the banks are open now. But let's get to the top stories that set your agenda. We see the oil market, oil prices have risen slightly in early trade today, but still down about 0.36%. In early trade, $85.03 a barrel. That's what we have for Brent crude. WTI, that's a U.S. grade, still above that $80 psychological level at this time, but down 0.48%. Both benchmarks were up by more than $1 in the previous session after Ukrainian drone strike led to an oil terminal fire at a major Russian port, and that's according to some Russian officials at this time. So we're seeing geopolitics driving sentiment right there in the market. So other stories now. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has extended the 2024 licensing bid round registration by 10 days. The Commission's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Gbenga Komolafe, says that the extension aims to give interested investors more opportunities to participate. Mr. Komolafe emphasized the Commission's commitment to maximizing the value of Nigeria's oil and gas reserves and increasing production. He mentioned ongoing collaboration with multi-client companies to enhance exploratory activities and gather more data to attract investment into the upstream sector. The Commission has also added 17 deep offshore blocks to the 2024 licensing round based on new data. And the federal government has announced a $3.5 billion agreement with Afrexim Bank to boost the textile industry and promote the use of compressed natural gas within a year. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Doris Zoka-Anite, made this known on her official X page, noting that the deal was signed at the 31st Afrexim Bank annual meeting in the Saudi Bahamas. The agreement includes a $3 billion industrialization financing facility to accelerate Nigeria's industrialization, statewide investment projects for regional development, and a global country guarantee to boost investor confidence. We need that right now. It also aims to revamp the textile and apparel industry with a projected $3.3 billion in project capital expenditure, creating jobs and developing the CNG value chain for sustainable automotive and transport sectors. Mrs. Zoka-Anite emphasizes that this landmark agreement aligns with the President Tinubu's vision for a diversified and prosperous economy. To security matters now, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is concerned over the rate of insecurity after the kidnap of Managing Director of Fuani Group, who has been rescued now. According to Director General of the association, Segun Ajayi-Kader, the incident has left the entire manufacturing community shocked and concerned about the safety of its chief executives and indeed its workforce. Mr. Ajayi-Kader commends the security agencies for the safe release of Mr. Fuani and asks for intensified efforts to tackle the rising cases of kidnapping and insecurity in the country, as it poses a significant threat to the business community and overall economic development of Nigeria. And definitely, we're all waiting for the open right now for most of the markets we track right here. Definitely was a positive week last week. That's for the stock market. And definitely, we're going to be watching how investors actually open this trading day after 2 days of holidays. It's a holiday shortened week, so we just have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for trades this week. But who knows if the bull is going to come out strong in this holiday shortened week, or we might see profit taken again. So, but we're going to discuss that definitely on the show to find out where the market is going to tend to. We're also going to drill down on the Naira, what to expect. Definitely, we know the close for Friday last week, still around that band of 1,500 to about late 1,400s at this time. That's for the official window. But we know that the parallel market, that was trading 24/7, and we did see a little weakness in that side. But let's get to our first conversation now. According to OPEC, Nigeria's oil production for May was at 1.25 million barrels per day, excluding condensates, compared to 1.28 million barrels per day in April. So we see a change of about 30,000 barrels per day there. That's the difference between April and May. But there are reports of also Saudi Arabia ending the long-standing petrodollar deal with the U.S., and that's sparking online discussions about the potential decline of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. And we'll see how this is going to impact the global oil market, going forward. Let's discuss this and other matters now with Mr. Madaki or Madachi Ame. He's a managing partner at BBH Consulting, also a former lawyer at Shell. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's begin with good morning, sir. It's great to have you. So let's begin with the potential termination of the petrodollar deal. What are some of the potential consequences, for Saudi Arabia and the U.S. if this deal, this petrodollar agreement, is to be officially terminated? We don't have official statement yet about the termination, but it has not been renewed at this time.
Well, I think what's happening. I think what's happening is that the petrodollar deal is probably the biggest reason why the American economy is the largest economy in the world, and why the dollar is so strong. It came into effect in 1973 when America and Saudi Arabia decided that the American dollar will be the currency in which all tradings in crude oil will be done. And because of this singular decision and the agreement that was signed in 1973, the American dollar has become the strongest currency in the world, and has also consistently for about 50 years and counting been the reserve currency in the world. So when the agreement fell due for renewal at the end of last week, the Saudi government decided that they were not going to renew it. And even though America is still in shock, I believe that singular decision is going to lead to catastrophic consequences for the American economy. We will see a downturn in the value of the dollar globally, and we'll see an upsurge in the value of individual countries' currencies. Because with the formation of the BRICS bloc, all the BRICS countries are now more attuned to trading in their own local currencies. And so we're going to see the rise of currencies like the Chinese yuan, the Russian ruble, even the South African rand, and the Indian rupee, and this actually will be a good thing for the world economy, because there are many consequences for the Americans, for the American dollars, retaining an artificial value for their currency. For instance, the high prices we pay for petroleum products in Nigeria is a direct consequence of the fact that we price our crude oil in dollars, even for local consumption. As long as we keep doing that, the economy will continue to leapfrog, to crawl on the ground, and the citizenry will continue to suffer. The high inflation we are suffering right now is a consequence of the artificial value of the dollar. Other countries rein that in for quite some time. For instance, a single dollar exchanges for 7 Chinese yuan, and this has been on for many years. If you go to China, whatever you can buy for $1 in America, you can buy for 1 yuan in China. So things are 7 times cheaper in China than they are in America. And considering that China is the factory of the world, most of the things that that people produce, people consume, even in America, are produced in China. So it's 7 times cheaper to buy things in China than to go to America and buy the same thing that is produced in China. So when we see the decline of the influence of the American dollar in international oil diplomacy, it's going to help to crash a lot of things. hopefully Nigeria will start selling its crude oil in Naira.
Right.
And also start pricing, the crude oil that is supplied to the refineries, for local consumption, also in Naira.
Okay, that brings me...
The economy will
that brings me to
if we do that, the economy will improve.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. You did mention, other currencies right now. You mentioned the yuan, you mentioned the ruble, and the rand, which is, an African currency, having prospects here to become strong, with this moving away from US dollar trades in the oil market. But definitely, I also want to know how the Naira can actually key in to this strength, if this deal is not renewed. That's the Saudi Arabia-US petrodollar deal. But at this time, definitely we've seen some impact, of geopolitics in the global oil market. So I'm wondering if this is going to continue driving sentiment in the global oil market and how Nigeria can position, at this time so that we can also get some strength, for the Naira, at this time. I'd like to get your perspective on that.
Not done anything new for a long time. And I think that's actually quite shameful. Because nothing new has happened. All that the government officials are doing are basically repeating things that have been done in the past and trying to, and hoping that something will change. If I were, in a policy-making position, Nigeria should be a key player in the BRICS group by now. If Nigeria makes a strategic decision to join the BRICS, bloc, that would be a major statement in the international, to the international forum, and the global economy, that Nigeria is now ready to change the game. Joining BRICS will automatically improve the value of the Nigerian currency. The reason being that, with the end of the petrodollar agreement with Saudi Arabia, and with Saudi Arabia having been invited officially to join the BRICS, and with their Minister of Foreign Affairs participating in the BRICS Foreign Ministers Forum a few days ago, the signal they are sending is that they are prepared and now ready to remove themselves from the apron strings of the United States. Other countries will go that way. A number of countries like Egypt and a few other countries in Africa have been invited to join the BRICS as well. But the last time I checked, Nigeria has not been invited. And countries get invited to join BRICS based on how serious they take themselves, how seriously they take themselves, and how focused their government is in terms of revamping their own economies. Apart from all the lip service they're paying, to economic reforms, which has basically shortchanged Nigerians and made the standard of living completely low and impossible for people to survive because of the spiraling inflation. We have not seen anything new that this government has done. And if this government is really determined to make a step change, the time to play on the global stage by joining the BRICS group is now. Because if we come later when every other person has positioned themselves, we will not be able to occupy a position of influence, within the BRICS fold. And that would be a shame.
Right.
But we haven't seen anything new from the government, apart from sending large delegations, to go and to COP 27 and then to the recent International Labour Organization conference, where they will go there and just warm their seats and do nothing. We haven't seen anything. But if the government wants to make a strategic change right now, this is the time to join BRICS. This is the time to make big statements, because the world is ready, for a step change. And, one of the major impacts of the end of the petrodollar agreement, which the American government has not come to terms with, is the fact that, the facade of the American economy being the largest in the world will come crumbling right under their noses. Because what has sustained the American economy all this while is the strength of their dollar. And the fact that the world, the demand for the dollar worldwide, keeps fueling the printing of new dollars. Because no matter how much dollars the American economy and the American Federal Reserve prints, it will just get mopped up, Nigeria keeps a significant portion of the American dollar in raw cash. And
right.
That is probably what is driving, the unreasonable exchange rate that the Nigerian naira suffers, relative to the American dollar. Nobody could ever have imagined that in a 2024 scenario, the Nigerian dollar would be the Nigerian naira would be exchanging at 1,500 or almost 1,600 naira to $1. It's totally shameful.
Right.
And it's not something that anybody can contemplate. No matter how you plan to, how you spin the story, and no matter how much you waste foreign currency trying to so-called defend, the value of the naira, you are not going to be able to go far, because how much can you defend the value of any currency,
All right.
And currently the value of the naira, the gross devaluation of the naira, under this current administration is completely reprehensible, it's shameful, and it shows a complete lack of capacity to manage an economy. And I don't know how much longer we can continue to run this way.
All right, Mr. Ame, because definitely, Mr. Ame, we've seen a lot of weakness in African currencies, recently, and also when we saw the U.S. Dollar, rally, in the previous trading sessions. But we've seen a lot of weakness, when it comes to African currencies strength, but we're still seeing some, managing to hold on, at this time. But let's look at oil production, because definitely we know that looking at the trend of oil production, in Nigeria, we've seen that downward month-on-month trend there from April, into May, about the difference about 300,000 barrels, or 30,000 barrels per day. But definitely we've been talking about, refining and refining our oil, in Nigeria. We did hear Mr. Dangote talk about an oil mafia, trying to keep Nigeria importing, refined petroleum products, at this time. But we've seen oil production also come down, and I'm wondering, if oil production is not boosted at this time, we have to feed these refineries, at this time. So talk to me about Nigeria's oil production and the possibilities of getting cheap PMS, at some point, in this our refining journey.
Well, my take on that, is that we are running the oil and gas industry in Nigeria grossly inefficiently. And it's really, really unfortunate. We have been talking about ramping up production for years, but we haven't done anything about it. We haven't, beyond grandstanding and just saying the usual things, I've not seen any conscious effort being made, to actually increase production. And the frustration I face with this is that there's so much knowledge, there's so much inbuilt capacity here, but there's so much mediocrity in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. And as long as you keep doing the same things over and over and again, you are never, ever going to see a change, Now, we look for all the excuses in the world to get things wrong in this country. And because we reinforce mediocrity, there is no consequence management for people who are in big positions but are doing absolutely nothing, to earn their daily salaries, And I don't know how they are able to sleep well at night. We keep talking ad infinitum about trying to rein in crude oil theft. How do we rein in crude oil theft? How do we rein in crude oil theft if, at the end of the day, you put in place very expensive contracts like the Tantita contract? We have a Tantita contract that is 4 billion naira a month, to carry out some form of surveillance on the pipelines. But instead of production to increase, production keeps decreasing. And nobody is asking the contractor, what are you doing differently? And what do you plan to do differently, to make things get better. We're in a situation where, people just keep running on and on and on, the same sort of reinforcing the same failures, and nobody asks them any questions, about how these things should be done better. We have a situation where, in this same country, some years ago, we're able to grow production from 800,000 barrels to over 2 million barrels within a space of about 6 to 8 months. And the person who made that happen, a certain Rear Admiral A.O. Suleiman, is still alive. He's retired from the Navy now, but he's around. Why are they not asking him what he did when he was commander of Operation Delta Force? Nobody wants to leverage on institutional knowledge to solve national problems, because everybody, a few people benefit from it, from the level of rot that we are undergoing at the moment. I find it extremely frustrating that every single time we get called up, on programs like this to provide solutions, and then you are talking as if you are talking to the wall, and then nobody listens, nobody implements anything. People are just contented we continue to run the economy aground and run a bankrupt country when we actually have so much potential to quadruple, if not, run this economy 10 times, 100 times more efficiently than we're doing. This is a broke country. We have no money, but we keep, buying expensive things. Now I hear they want to buy a new private jet, a new presidential jet for the president. The presidential fleet already has about 8 to 10 planes. What do they need another plane for? How come they're not even feeling any form of sensitivity to the sufferings of Nigerians who cannot afford even 1 square meal in a day? How long can we continue to run a country, based on government officials playing the ostrich as if everything is right? Some of these things are very annoying, and then, continue to talk about them on and on and on is actually very frustrating.
Right.
Nosedive in production, in daily production of crude oil. There's no difference in procedure between producing crude oil and producing crude water. So how come we are able to produce water and there's water everywhere, and then we are not able to produce oil and then and refine the oil at the price that people can afford? The current high prices of petroleum products is actually a self-inflicted injury. The government has refused to do the right thing. Why are we pricing local, our products at the pump, in Nigeria based on an artificial price of crude oil, which the international price is prepared to pay? Why are we not able to even say from now on we are going to price our local, all the crude oil that we use locally, in our naira? And when you start doing the pricing in naira and you do appropriate pricing based on the wellhead cost of a barrel of crude, you can crash the current cost of petrol, diesel, kerosene, jet A1, and even the lubricants to levels that will shock you. We can do, even as at today, a 300 naira per liter PMS, AGO, and DPK. I've been saying this for many, many years, since 2012. When we had the first major oil, strike in this country because of the petroleum industry.
Right.
But nobody listens. And honestly, we are getting to a point now where, we may just decide not to talk about this anymore and let them do whatever they want to do.
All right, Mr. Ame, I guess,
so much mediocrity.
Yeah, I guess we still have to, keep talking and driving the message, at this time, because we know that the leaders do here, and at some point, they're going to take action and we'll get things better. We're all hoping and hoping that, with the Dangote refinery, we can actually get affordable PMS at some point and get all the refineries actually working in the country. But that's all we can take now. It was great having your perspective as Mr. Madachi Ame, managing partner at BBH Consulting and former Shell lawyer. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
All right, so the holidays are over now, the markets are open, and trade is on right now. And let's try and get an outlook for what to expect in this holiday shortened week. We have Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO of Finance with Mukhtar, join us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ladi. Good morning.
Right, so we're kicking off trading today. What are you expecting for the market? How do you see investors coming out of the holidays?
Well, investors will be coming from the holiday with a little bit of caution and optimism. depending on which side of a device you will be playing. If you are looking at the banking sector this week, we don't expect so much activities. We've seen what would drive the market. It will be the right issues, what are going to be the prices. We've seen some of them like assets falling below the right issues. Investors might be looking there as an opportunity to get cheap and then maybe still take up their right. We're expecting Zenith Bank also to tell us what the right issues are going to be, what's the price. UB also expectant to hear what. And also, you know that GTCO have already told us, and people are waiting to know the price and the ratio. In terms of GTCO is not talking about the right issue, they're just talking about the public offer. So hopefully we look at maybe some of them will be doing public offer, some of them will be doing right issue. Fidelity Bank right issue is already on. We've seen that the price have moved above the right issue price. So investors will be looking at that space also to take opportunities, also get their right. The other companies that will be driving the market this week will be maybe the brewery sector. Last week we saw Guinness takeover, and the majority shareholder leaving Guinness. And so we saw that price rally, and hopefully we'll continue to see that price rally, knowing that the new owners bought it from the old owners at 81 Naira. So hopefully we'll see how the market will respond to that today. Also, you mustn't forget also that Nigerian Brewery Bank on the bandwagon of that move from a week ago was selling at 23 Naira, today selling at 31 Naira. So we expect that maybe news will come in also from the side of Nigerian Brewery. Remember also, we are waiting for the right offer. Dangote's meant something very information came to the market last week before the close of the week. Black Gold Eyes, one of the owners, shareholders of Dangote, are exiting Nigeria and Kenya. So they may be dumping some of those Dangote shares. And so will Aliko Dangote, the African richest man, be buying back those shares from them, or will it be floated in the market? That also will be what will determine the price. I think for me, those are some of the key market informations that most investors will be looking out for this week.
Right, so much to look out for. But let me get a quick take now. What are you seeing for the Naira this week, in this holiday shortened week?
Well, Naira, well, we saw the good news from the Exim Bank, from the World Bank. 2.3 billion will be coming into the market, to the central bank. Hopefully, it will find its way to the market, but we don't expect them to find a way to the market, or find them coming in trenches. Hopefully, the market should report positively for the Naira, but like I always say, it's a short-time measure. What would really stabilize the Naira will be a long-time measures. And so speculators always know that the short-time measure will just last for some time. And so they always keep on taking profit taking profit when they have to take profit, knowing that the market may receive the news and go down, then hold on to it because they know that it's a short-time game. So we need to begin to see how we can stabilize the Naira. Diaspora remittance are one of them, crude oil sales are other, portfolio investors, both foreign and foreign direct investors also. The good news is that portfolio investors are beginning to come in, even if it's in the fixed income space. So hopefully the Naira should stabilize this week. But I don't see the Naira going as low as what it is currently selling. I see the Naira settling down between 1,480, 1,500, both in the parallel market and the autonomous foreign exchange market.
Right, it's quite incredible. I remember one time it was unthinkable to think of the Naira over at 1,000 Naira to the dollar, but it seems we're getting used to this 1,500, 1,004 band. Quite incredible things happening, but thank you so much. Always great having your perspective. Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Mukhtar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ladi, for having me.
All right, that's it from me on Business Morning. We'll give you a summary of the stock market close and details from the FX market at close of trade today. I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to the Sunrise Daily team.
Well, the story is back from the markets, one would say. But then, if you look at what's happening in other markets, it is equally troubling. its information that is available to us says that something in the region of 200% hike has gone on hospitals and drug markets, and the effect is very, very telling. Of course, we saw that in the papers not too long ago. So hospitals without drugs, people unable to access Medicare the way they should, paying from out of pockets, limited insurance, health insurance for people, access to health care. It's a plethora of issues, but let's have conversations this morning with Dr. Professor Sam Owabuwa. Am I correct?
I didn't know when I became a professor.
Okay, well, I actually thought you had become one.
Dr. Sam.
Okay, Dr. Sam Owabuwa is President, African Economic Summit Group. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Now, you've worked with the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria as president, so that will give you some understanding and possibly even some petrification, if I dare say, about this issue. 200% hike in the cost of drugs and Medicare for people. How does it resonate with you?
Well, I have not just worked with being president of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. I was chairman of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group, president of West African Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association. So I grew up in the industry. I was CEO of Pfizer and Nimet. So I know the industry well, and I know the healthcare industry. It is one disease that is afflicting everybody, and I will start with myself. Yesterday, I went to buy an antibiotic. The last time I bought that antibiotic was 7,000, 6,000. Yesterday, I went, and it was, after giving me a pharmacist discount, it came to 26,000. Something I bought 6,000 or 7,000.
At a discount?
At a discount, because there's a pharmacist discount. There's a pharmacist. 26,000 something. I just looked at it and I paid. And I'm saying, how many people can afford this? 26,000 is what some people earn as salary. It's people who do security work and house. It's 26, 20, 20. That's the truth. So it is something that is very distressing. However, it is not unique to healthcare. It's not unique to pharmaceutical, it's not unique to hospital. Every item in Nigeria, today the greatest inflation is on food. As basic as food is, as critical as it is to the survival of any human being, Nigerians, food is part of the most expensive thing, and the price is still galloping. So no part of the economy or any good is excluded from the what you might call hyperinflationary pressure today, except we decide to do something for those key areas like food, medicine, and maybe education and housing. These are critical areas that government needs to find a way to cushion this hyperinflationary pressure that is leading to people getting low quality of life and maybe also having shorter life expectancy. It's painful. There's malnutrition because people don't feed well. And then diseases are just growing in the seams. If I could feel that pain of buying an antibiotic, I can imagine what it would be for the ordinary Nigerian who is not on insurance, and even those on the so-called national health insurance. They are treated like second-class citizens when they go to hospitals. National health insurance. If you arrive at a hospital and they say you're on national health insurance, they keep you on one side. Treat those who are paying, because they don't regard the national health insurance as paying.
Is this from public hospitals or private hospitals?
Any hospital you go to, public. That's where most people go with public. If you come, they keep you on one side. No, they don't give priority to people with national health insurance because they believe they are not getting proper payment for the services. That is the practical demonstration in the hospitals, both private and public. If you have paying, if you have your pay from your cash, from your pocket, where they can give you the bill, the actual bill. But if your insurance, health insurance, they don't bill you for most of the primary activities. But the suppliers of these services feel they are not getting value. So it's either something is wrong with the premium, or it's wrong with the way we are charging or the premium for hospital services from the National Health Insurance. So many things are not working well. We are begging that we should even ramp up the insurance. If we did, at least many people can have access to primary health care, can have access to the minimum, even if, as I said, they are treated as second-rate clients in hospitals. But the truth is that insurance cover today does not go. The last time I checked was 6%.
But just on the issue that you just highlighted, now, it's rather troubling. Is this something that you think that the health authorities, the ministerial level or at the commissioner level, are aware that public hospitals, particularly public hospitals, do not give due regard to holders of health insurance policies?
You have two types of health insurance. You have national health insurance, you have private insurance. Those with private insurance have access because the premium they pay is different. But the NHIS, which is where the fixed premium is paid to health management organizations who now pay suppliers, that chain is not working well because even the suppliers of services, the doctors, the pharmacists, the physiotherapists are not getting reimbursed appropriately. So there's a reluctance to service those patients because, like, we're going to increase our debt. It is what the government should check at and find out what I'm speaking about. It is a reality. But like I said, that's a smaller problem vis-a-vis those who cannot even afford it. Those who don't have that insurance, whether it is private or national health insurance, those who do not have access to health care, who cannot afford. Today, it is getting worse because people pay out of pocket. And when you have to pay out of pocket, you prioritize food, you prioritize transportation. Even prioritize so many things before you get to drugs.
But, another thing one question that should be asked of that is, what are the consequences of this situation? This 200% hike, according to The Guardian, 200% hike and scarcity of essential drugs in the drug market and in the hospitals. What are the consequences?
Consequences that people are going to have difficulty managing their illnesses. The consequences are going to be increased morbidity and then increased mortality because one extends to the other. Morbidity is when your function is depressed, is suboptimal. Mortality is when the function ends. You can't operate anymore, and the people say you're dead. There is an increasing number, and we're not trying to frighten anybody, but it's the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that people cannot afford health care now because of the high inflation, the depression in purchasing power, and the lack of opportunity. And I think that government, which their primary responsibility is the welfare and well-being of the people. I keep saying it. It is good to do all the gymnastics we do in government or in politics or in economics, talking about how much you have, how much road you are building, how much this. For me, the measurement of the capacity of government is the quality of life of the citizen. And the primary responsibility is that every government should say, I met my citizens at this level of well-being and have moved them to this state of well-being. That is my own measure. It's not the number of roads. It's not the number of houses. It is the quality of life. And for now, government needs to focus. What do we do? Because it's a general inflationary pressure on everything, as I said. But there are 3 or 4 segments government will look at and decide what to do about them. Look at food, agriculture, and look at medicines. And these 2 are so primary before you even talk about the others. And say, what is instigating this high cost and scarcity? And first is that the cost of importing raw materials. in Nigeria today, because everything we use for pharmaceutical manufacturing, let me not say everything, most things we use for pharmaceutical manufacturing, most equipment we use for pharmaceutical manufacturing are imported. And so if you want to reduce the cost of drugs, you look at those components. We're still paying VAT on raw materials. We're still paying duties. We're paying VAT on equipment. We're paying duties on equipment. And when you add all that up, and every day you go, the customs will tell you the duty rate has changed, because even the exchange rate which you establish your LC has changed, and you have to pay. They recalculate it. They are so happy to recalculate custom duty for you, and you can stay. Your goods can be in the port for as long as you have not been able to pay the new rates. There is no feeling at all that pharmaceuticals like food are life-saving, and they require emergency treatment. For example, if pharmaceutical products arrive at the port, you should create a special clearance that they don't have to go through the protocols of, filling forms and going forward and backwards. You treat them as if we're importing cars, as if we're importing anonymity, despite the fact that they have shelf lives.
Dr. Abu, this issue of, the one that you just talked about now, the fact that, the importation of these things, most of the things used to produce these pharmaceutical products are imported, is not new.
Yeah.
We had an interview with the NAFDAC DG who said at some point that we are at the brink, it's about a year or two ago, we're at the brink of a health or of a crisis in that sector because we need to have a health security of sorts. She was raising the alarm about a year or two ago now about the fact that we need to be health secure because these countries, importing from them is dangerous for us. Secondly, if we do not start to find a way to get these things done ourselves, we will always be at the mercy of these people. And that's just about a year or two ago. Even now, I'm looking at a report that says as far back as 8 months ago, industrial pharmacists warned Nigerians of potential scarcity of essential drugs across the country because of the high cost of Forex, among other things. What were we waiting for?
Well, it is a country that is unable to prioritize adequately. Our priorities are mixed. You see, it hurts me because I'm saying what is the essence of governance beyond seeing how we can make life better for our citizens. And if citizens can't have food, they can't have medicines, then you then begin to talk about education and housing. Because these four are important. If you ask me, food is first. Second is medicine, before you go to the other ones. So you must be healthy to do education and even live. So I think that the problem is that we're not prioritizing. The money we're spending on inanities, on vanity, are enough to us to subsidize food, subsidize medicines, both from foreign exchange allocation and pricing to import duties, VAT, and all these taxes that add up to cost. Because the taxes are based on exchange rate. So if exchange rate goes up, everything else goes up to bring the goods. The process of importation is so long, it gets to the custom. The custom people, they are like, they are insensitive. They treat every item, as the same. Nobody says, please, we're in an emergency situation. Nigerians are having issues. Let's treat medicines, medicals, healthcare issues, food issues in a separate way, create a different opportunity. We talk about subsidy. No nation does not subsidize. All this palliative we're giving is subsidy. So, but give it in the right way. Provide medicines in a manner. Buy medicines in bulk. Give orders to pharmaceutical companies and say, look, we are giving you to produce so much for some, and work out what the cost will be. And government has they control the cost elements. So they can decide, we want the cost to come to X. What will it take to bring the cost to X that our people can afford? Is that difficult for any government to calculate?
But then who is that some people will point to palliatives.
What palliatives? Palliatives that go so well. The ones they the people, those palliatives have no sustainability.
You know, my colleague Marwe has a question or two for you. Go ahead, Marwe.
Indeed, well, it's good to see you, sir. And, you know, some of the issues that you have raised are truly troubling indeed. When you take a look at, let's go back to the conversation you were having about insurance, the fact that, you know, when even people are insured, you know, it is very difficult for them to get services at the hospital. Sometimes, you know, the quality of medication that they also get too can be suspect. Because of the fact that they are on insurance. Nowadays, you find people saying, you know what, I'll purchase my drugs myself. Just give me the prescription, because they're not sure about the quality of the medicine which they're going to receive. I'm just wondering, some of these things which you have raised in terms of insurance, and even the ideas, because you also used to head the PCN, the Pharmaceutical, is it PSN now, beg your pardon, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Has anybody been able to take these suggestions to the Minister of Health, who should have an overview of what is happening in the sector?
I'm sorry to say I might be too blunt and maybe not politically correct, but the truth of the matter is that we have a health minister who is willing. You can see a willing health minister. He listens to everybody. He goes around and he makes promises, and those promises are not being realized because it is not all in his hands. He has promised us executive order, presidential executive order that will make things easy for manufacturing. We held meetings with him, held dinners with him in Lagos, in Abuja, and all manner of places. The guy is willing, but I can see that the whole thing is not in his hand. You know, he's not able to push some of these things through. There is a clear understanding of what the issues are. The Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group, all the stakeholders, you know, in the pharmaceutical industry have adumbrated, elucidated on these issues. As some of you know, this is not the first time we're speaking about them. These issues were recognized immediately after during the COVID-19, when we first faced the shock of not having pharmaceuticals because India and China closed their borders. And we began to talk of seeing medicines as a national security issue, the way we see importing ammunition and in training our soldiers and all that. That was the view. That was why CBN at that time started thinking about providing dedicated funding to pharmaceutical companies or healthcare companies to increase their capacity and capabilities, you know. But before you could even get the plans started, everything changes. You know, you now have, you borrowed money at X. You're going to pay back at Y, which is X times 300 or 400. And you are saying, how do I pay back? Then I may have to raise my prices. You raise your prices, people cannot afford. And pharmaceutical products have time expiration. They are time limited. So pharmaceutical manufacturers, especially in the pharmaceutical subsector, are in stress, in their pain. They are owing banks, they are owing their suppliers, and they can sell the goods because unless you sell below cost. So what is asked here, Mark, if you ask me, let government decide to subsidize for a period of time, just like it's a palliative, let's say in the next 1 year, before the economic policies we have taken, you know, come to a point where they begin to yield positive results. Because what we have seen now is negative, and that is what happens when we take those kind of shock therapy we've taken the economy. I believe that in the long run, they will turn out to be positive. But in the short run, instead of coming to the television and reading on newspaper 200%, 300%, people can't afford the drugs. It is not beyond us to divert some of the money we are using for inanities, for vanity, into procuring drugs in bulk, procuring food, procuring those essentials for the next 1 year so Nigerians can feel some bit of relief. In 1 year, we can return to all the tariffs, to all the taxes, because you are taxing me, you're taking money from the people in the name of tax, because everything, subsidy removal, foreign exchange devaluation, they are taxes to the citizen. You take the money from the citizen. What do you give them back for? Is thinking about big projects, 15 trillion projects, new aircraft, new buildings. They are nice, but why about the survival of the people, the basic things they need, which won't cost 15 trillion? If you put 15 trillion into pharmaceutical industry today, drugs will become almost zero in cost, or food will become largely available, and the suffering of people will ameliorate because for crying out loud, the essence of governance is to improve the quality of life of people. It is. And anytime the quality of life of people are not improved, no government can say they are doing well, because that's my own measure of how well a government is doing. What is the quality of life? What is life expectancy? What is your energy consumption, carbohydrate consumption, protein consumption? What is the infant mortality, maternal mortality? These are measures of the well-being. What is the energy? How much can you afford to live a good life? The moment we are not able to live a good life, nobody would tell me that we are doing well. We can't be doing well. But I understand that pains, we have to pass through pains. They say you cannot eat omelette without breaking the egg. I accept. But while omelette is being baked, while omelette is being broken, we can provide bread to keep the child happy and say, we are working on your omelette so that he can be alive. If not only putting something in his stomach, he has hope. My call today at this program is that government needs to take pharmaceuticals or healthcare and food into a different category and pay attention, see what they can do to make it available. We don't want to get people to start going to riot or going to streets or falling down before government will start running. This is enough warning. When the newspapers say it, the media says it, we who are professionals and practitioners say it, government had better take us seriously, because it is to help government that this feedback is being given.
So, Dr. Onhaba, when you talk about government subsidizing the sector, is it in areas of the drugs or health insurance? Because, I mean, if you subsidize drugs without the insurance, can they access it? What impact will it make? How should they work?
Well, the thing that most of the time, when anybody goes to the hospital, most of the time, let's say 80% of the time, the end point of his attendance is drug. The best physicians, the best clinicians can prescribe medicines. If you don't get those drugs, it's as if you wasted your time. It is drugs that give value to the work of most of the healthcare professionals. So if you make drug cheap, whether you are getting it for insurance or you're getting it out of pocket, it becomes affordable. So that's the subsidy I'm asking for. Let government focus on, if it's bulk purchase of drugs, call the pharmaceutical companies. Each one has its own areas of specialty. Okay, you make, the Ministry of Health and Trade will already have, plus NAFDAC, they have an idea of the consumption rate. As we talk about consumption rate for PMS, we have consumption rate for analgesics, for anti-malarials, for antibiotics, for the basic product. Then you can give contracts to pharmaceutical companies and say, make this quantity at this price. And you sit down with pharmaceutical companies and calculate what makes up the price. They'll tell you the cost of the raw materials. And if you see that it is the exchange rate that is the problem, you do something. It's in your hands. If you think it's the tariff, if you think it's the VAT, if you think it's the clearing charges, you do something. As an emergency, you say you declare emergency on food. I do not know what that emergency reflects, how we are seeing the emergency. When there's emergency anywhere, people around need to see what the emergency is all about. The frenzy of actions and activities that have been done, not just say emergency, you announce emergency, and everything is still going the normal way. That will not bring any results.
It's a lot of things, because I'm looking at this report from 8 months ago, and it's saying, look, it will get worse. Now, what must we do? I mean, if you can do this for me in 30 seconds, what must we do now to avert something worse than that?
I have said it. The issue is, let government provide a dedicated subsidy. That is, how will this subsidy work? It's a predetermined action. we have calculated that we need so much analgesic, antimalarial. Let's take the basic medicines. Then you go to the manufacturers, call them to a meeting through the pharmaceutical manufacturers group or the other parts of industry, including those who do importation. We sit down with accountants, with Ministry of Finance, with Ministry of Trade. How much does it cost to produce these items? We give you the basic price, you check. Then you decide, okay, we're going to allow you this time, instead of taking 15% margin, government will only allow 5% or 10% margin. So that this is something we're doing together to save our situation.
Okay.
And that's the way to be done.
Okay.
You go there, you do the same for food, because food and medicines are related. Sometimes food itself is medicine.
It's a long conversation, and we have to thank you. I'm hoping that the next time we have this conversation, it will be not talking about these wars, but to also say, you know, thank goodness we're here. Where we are now, we can only do better. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Sam Wawa is President, African Economic Summit Group. He's been President, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. You've also been President or CEO of Pfizer and a number of other pharmaceutical companies. Thank you so again for your time today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, that's the show this morning, but hey, any feedback, guys?
Well, the feedback is food is medicine. I need medicine right now. well, that's the show. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Che Badalisa. Goodbye.
Remember what he said at the beginning. You know, women, don't keep your food longer than 3 days in the fridge. It's not from him, it's from the NAFDAC DG. Well, thank you for watching. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.
I think I'm going to cue with Chamberlain this morning. Your food is also medicine. It's one of those things that they say in medicine as well. Thanks for your time. Have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Tired of pans that scratch and stick? Or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing ShopX Gotham Hammered Copper Collection, the perfect cookware to upgrade your cooking experience. The Gotham Hammered Copper Collection features a super durable ultra non-stick surface. Eggs stick to other pans, but with the Hammered Copper Collection, they slide right out. Incredible! It's oven safe up to 500 degrees. Any recipe can be made in these pans. And then it wipes clean with ease. Make mouth-watering jollof rice or even fluffy pounder with ease. Because nothing sticks.
I needed a cookware to keep up with me. The Gotham Hammered Collection has been a game changer. No more burnt meals or hours spent scrubbing pots.
You could be paying over $490,000 for a collection of pans that are not even non-stick. Call the number on your screen now and get it for just 364,950 naira. If you order now, we will upgrade you to the Premier Kitchen Collection at no extra charge and also include all-in-one food processor that blends, grinds, chops, dices, pounds yam, and makes smoothies in seconds. Place your order now and we will deliver the entire collection for free. The following was a paid presentation from ShopX TV.
We do thank you for staying tuned and welcome to News Track on Channels Television. I am Bukola Coca, and these are the stories we're following for you this hour. Starting in River State, it appears a busy morning after the unrest and violence which arose from the dispute over the tenure of local government chairman. This comes as Governor Siminalayi Fubara has sworn in the newly screened caretaker committee chairman and members in the 23 local government areas of the state. Governor Fubara, according to reports, has also mandated the audit of local government accounts in Rivers following the expiration of the tenure of the immediate past chairmen who have left office. And some of the prominent names on the list are Chijioke Ihonwo, chairman of the National Youth Council in Rivers State, who is nominated to chair the committee in former Governor Wike's Obiakpo local government area. Two former council chairmen that challenged the extension of tenure by the Martin Amewule-led assembly are also nominated by the governor to serve as caretaker chairman of Boni and Opobo Unkoro local government area. They are Honorable Enyada Kukigam and Dame Anengi Baraswa. Earlier on, the State Assembly members screened the caretaker committee chairman and members, and which was after a correspondence from the governor, in which was read by the Speaker of the State Assembly, Honorable Oko Jumbo. And in the letter, the governor is said to have said this was done to avoid a vacuum in the administration of the local government areas following the expiration of the tenure of the elected chairman on Monday. And earlier on, former Port Harcourt local government area chairman arrived the local government with a crowd of people who were chanting war songs. They tried to gain entry into the premises but were resisted by the police. And in Obiakpo local government area, in Rumudia area to be precise, reports say one lane is blocked and causing some traffic, aside that business is going on normally in that area. There are reports also of heavy security presence in most of the 23 local government areas of Rivers State. Away from Rivers State now, the Lagos State government has issued a call for heightened vigilance and the adoption of precautionary measures to prevent the spread of a potential cholera outbreak in the state. The call follows an excess of severe gastroenteritis cases reported in Lagos in the last 48 hours. This is according to the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, who was speaking during an interview at the Lagos House Marina on the surveillance reports reaching his desk in the Ministry of Health. He disclosed that cases of severe gastroenteritis have been reported in communities around Etiosa, Lagos Island and Koshofe local government areas, resulting in about 60 hospital admissions, and sadly, 5 deaths have also been recorded, mainly from patients presenting late with extreme dehydration. He encourages residents with symptoms of diarrhea to report to the nearest hospital and get treatment.
We realized that there was a sudden spike. We saw on one day, on the 10th of June, about 140 patients across our general hospitals, mainly in Lagos Island, Lekki, and Koshofe. So we realized something was happening. We activated what's called the Emergency Operations Center, which has multiple pillars, and they kicked into action and they started to investigate what was happening across the state in our hospitals, at home and in the primary healthcare centers. We got a confirmation that this was indeed cholera from our laboratories, and a subtype that we are familiar with, which is a fairly aggressive subtype of cholera which spreads very quickly, and that means that our medical countermeasures needed to be up to speed to be able to stop this cholera from moving from person to person. This was also in anticipation of the public holiday and the festive season of Ilea. We were rolling into the festive season of Ilea. Of course, as Lagosians, this is a big event for us. We didn't want to curtail it in any way. So we amplified and increased our surveillance activity. And luckily, those efforts paid off, and we started to see a progressive decline in the number of cases that were presenting to our facilities and into the private sector as well. So as of now, the numbers have come down dramatically, and in fact, we had 10 cases day before yesterday, and yesterday we actually have not reported any new cases in Lagos. We are working very, very closely with our 2 commissioners in education to make sure that we sensitize all the teachers, we sensitize all the school clinics, and we make sure that all that information is out there. It is very important that if you notice severe gastritis or gastroenteritis with vomiting, that you start immediate first aid, which is treatment with oral rehydration salts. But you don't leave it at that. You present to one of our medical facilities and we will start the treatment. We will take the samples. Don't go and collect treatment, on the side of the street. Don't go to any place to receive an antibiotic or any